think you're missing wires, like a self-inflicted wound. And I know you can't believe it until it's on the news. All the lovely faces, short of any clues. Essential.
l'étape, l'essentiel est qu'ils comprennent. L'essentiel que se retrouve. Parce que si l'essentiel est fondamental.
Wow. Soulwax, is it always binary from the album Dee-Wee? Guys, fair play to you. Come and sit over with us if you can still make it, because I know you've got end of touritis.
Yeah. Like a very surreal version of Graham Norton. Come over here now and sit on
and
this
sit with us.
lovely settee.
David Diwali on lead vocals and Stephen Diwali, brother, keys and guitar. I feel like we should be interviewing the three drummers, really. Blew my mind.
I know, but yeah, three drummers. Thank you.
Just incredible.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you very much. How are you, first of all? Are you all right,
Great.
Steph? He's been drinking honey and lemon, bless his little heart.
Somebody just offered me whiskey with lemon. So.
Good idea. So, it's after 6 somewhere in the world, isn't it? Right as well. How was it last night, first of all?
Yeah, really good. Only the third date of the tour, but the best one yet in terms of crowd. Definitely, yeah.
Sorry, London.
London.
Yeah, yes, that's true. Stefan, you've got tour flu.
Yes.
It's the end of an exhausting schedule.
Exhausting, yeah, but it's the worst time.
This is what happens when you wait 12 years between albums. You see, this is what happened.
Between seeing you.
Yes,
Oh, that's
exactly.
also
Yeah,
true.
yeah. It was 10 years since you last saw me. 10 years since you
Yes.
last saw me. So 12 years between albums. Now the Belgians, I'm not sure what productivity rates in Belgium are like, but 12 years between albums, not ideal. If you want to keep.
Well, it's not
making
like
them.
you've not been doing anything.
Yeah, it definitely didn't feel like 12 years. We had to be pointed out that it had been 12 years.
Yeah, since night versions, yeah.
Since the release of night versions, because in between we did a million other things, and even as Soulwax, like we were touring till 2012 or 13, but we just didn't put out any albums. And we did a compilation of our remixes, and we toured that, and then we did the DVD, and we toured with that, and so we did a million other projects in between. So it didn't feel to us like it had been 12 years, but I guess it's clear to us now that the world still thinks in very kind of strict categories. So even if if you do all this kind of peripheral stuff, other bands, other names, it keeps living in that world. And then there's real things, and real things are like albums, and real things are singles, and real things are videos, and I guess our brains don't necessarily think like that.
Because Dee-Wee is a project, isn't it? It's you two together, and it encompasses art, film, everything.
Yeah, and that comprises everything. Like to us, the work that we put into a 12 or an album that we put out on our label, where we produce and work with the artist, that takes it's the same part of our brains as doing a remix or doing an edit for when we DJ, or it's all the same for us.
You did this album, Dee-Wee, which was released, I think, around about March here, and it was all one take.
Yes.
Live, almost 50 minutes. You're still shaking your head now like you can't believe it. Why? And what was that process like?
It's a hard process, but I think we need it. We needed those parameters to finish something. And I think we didn't want to do the same thing. And like Dave said, our minds are so chaotic that if we wouldn't have these limits, we probably would have taken 20 years to make an album, or make something, or we do something else. So this idea of having to do it in one take with these amazing musicians, rehearse the songs, and then go, okay, we're going to record the whole album. And there was also the transitions in between songs. Everything had to be done live. So I guess this whole endeavor for us was something we hadn't done, and just sounded really
and also something like it's rare to be in a situation where you can do this, like because we worked on many other albums for Soulwax or producing for other people, and it's rare that you can actually physically do that. And so since we had been touring with kind of this setup, so this same setup has been touring since 2016, and while we were touring, we were like, oh, you know what, we could actually do this live. And do the whole thing, like not just the song live, but just the whole thing, like tell a story from beginning to end. And I mean, 'cause I guess we seized the opportunity.
It's very much, though, in keeping, I think, with your philosophy of once something is done, it's done. Okay, so when I visited you, 10 years ago, and we went through that remix, and you said, well, it's on an analog desk. Once it's done, once it's committed to tape, we can never replicate how this sounds. So you like this. This is part of who you are.
There's that combined with the fact that we like to make it difficult for ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, which is also in the same spirit.
Now,
Which is more therapy.
Yeah.
tell me, what does your home stroke studio complex look like now? Previously, it looked like kind of Alfred Hitchcock thriller meets sci-fi movie. It was this bizarre, cranky house, which when I walked into it, I thought was going to fall down. All the windows were broken on the top because you didn't have an alarm, so people had to throw stones to actually to say, look, we're here waiting for you to do this session. Yeah. Has life changed for the two brothers?
Very much.
Yeah. Well, the building has changed. So we moved next door, and now it's like
We have no windows.
Yeah, there's no windows.
There's no windows at all.
There's no windows, so there's just we built. So we bought a piece of land next to the old building, and we built a studio, a full-on building where we put all our instruments and we could record live and stuff like that. And I guess we called that it's called the DB Studio. So everything we make, everything we do now comes out of that place, and we needed a place where we could come up with these crazy ideas. It's a bit like having your own little
HQ.
Yeah.
Your levels of, to this day, I still quote your levels of electronic geekery to people. You gave me a lift into town at Ghent, and I just was rifling through your car, and I found a CD kind of box set of experimental sounds from the Philips laboratories.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these are the kind of things you collect.
Hey, we've lost that CD. It was like a...
I stole that CD, yeah.
It was like a triple
It's all coming
CD.
back now.
You'll never see that CD again. So that kind of... And also, while we were there, I remember you were constantly trying to buy on eBay analog keyboards and drum machines.
Things have not changed.
that has
Really?
changed. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Only
there's
we've
always-
gone further now. We're on Loot. We're on every type of eBay all over Europe. Yeah.
And does it all fit into the studio?
No.
No.
Where is it?
We have a storage space.
So sad. I know,
Where-
it's the worst.
where the majority of the gear
You're a
is,
hoarder.
and
Yeah, we
then
are.
whenever we want something, we ask guys from our crew, can you please bring that keyboard, or can you bring this guy because we want it for this session.
Okay, what aspects of the way
By the way, this
electronica...
feels like therapy. Feels like we're.
It is.
feels
This
like
is
we're
group therapy
explaining
for
how
Soulwax.
stupid we are with an audience.
What aspects of modern electronica and the technology do you use?
A lot. I think even the live setup we do, we use Ableton, we do to trigger stuff, and it's not just old analog instruments. I think it's kind of a mix of the two. You use what's there now, and you kind of use the identity of some of these instruments. Because I think some of like these drum kits that we're using now, they have a specific sound. Which I think we couldn't recreate. So
But now is a good time actually, because 10 years ago we had to buy old keyboards to get that sound. But it's actually really good because a lot of there's like a tendency right now, there's a big trend to put out new analog gear that doesn't necessarily copy the old stuff and does new. So it's interesting times.
Yeah. So you did it out of necessity, not because you're hoarders.
No, that's not true. It is kind. I mean, it was slightly psychological as well because we like to play on gear that looks good, and most modern gear looks really ugly. Yeah.
Well, that gear looks absolutely fantastic. It's stunning. It's one of when you first come in and it's all this monochrome and silver, and it looks amazing. I hear that you had to buy another white drum kit just to make it look good.
From the 1960s.
needed one more, yeah.
Drum
You
kits,
needed
right?
one
No,
more.
these are 70s. These are
70s.
Yeah.
For you two growing up, brothers, did you ever imagine, I'm sure you're asked this a lot, that you would spend all of your working life together, almost?
no.
How does that work, that dynamic?
Again, Again, welcome to
Group
therapy.
It just happens. At some point, you end up, I don't know, it starts with making music together, which is already a weird one. And then 20 years later, you're still doing it, and you're still on the same bus, and you're still creating together. But I mean, I don't think it's something we consciously think about or talk about amongst each other. It's only in interviews people ask you, and that's when it dawns on you. You're like, yeah, wait, I'm a little bit too old for this maybe now.
But I mean, personality-wise, you're very different. But taste-wise and
Yeah,
style-wise,
that's the
you're
thing.
you're pretty identical.
I think the answer to the question is that it just works.
Yes.
We don't know why, but it just works.
Like if I sent you two off to a record shop now in Manchester, you'd come back with the same records. Probably.
It's likely that we would maybe
That's
not the
sad
exact same records, but like things that will that will be similar.
For this album, we are going back, of course, to March when it came out, but for this album, what was inspiring you in the world of music around you, or does it really work that way for you?
Ooh.
I think
Think back to 2016, yeah?
so, no, I think for this particular album, we didn't want it to be about influences because being kind of like traveling DJs, it kind of means that you have to be around music all the time. And we live in a time where not just as traveling DJs, anyone's just around music all the time, whether you're in the waiting room at the doctor's or, you know, at home. And so I think one of the exercises with this album is to maybe limit ourselves to it has to be this gear. We wanted it to be electronic. We wanted it to have vocals. And that's kind of it. And then it had to fit within those.
And I guess the most important one, it had 3 drummers. And I think I think maybe the simplest thing is, like, we do these things very organically. We went to Coachella. We were doing this thing called Despacio, which was a sound system we built with James Murphy. And we're doing it, and I remember we're sitting there, we're like, what if we would do something with 3 drummers? Just that. And then 3 weeks after that, we were like, we wanted to mix them ourselves, so we got the mixing desks. And then it all just progressed really, really fast, because you start with a thing, and then out of that thing becomes this installation that we have now with 3 drummers. And then it was this idea of like, who's going to play the drums? And Igor was one of the people that was in our heads already.
Sepultura's drummer, for anybody that doesn't know.
Yes, and who's a force of nature. It's almost amazing to like, if you're on stage, you're like, wow, Igor's playing with us. And then Victoria came in, and then Blake came in, and it's this crazy. It all happens really, really fast. And when we were making the record, I think the only thing was we wanted to do really like all record in one take, but also mix it in one day. So every song was done in one day. So we couldn't do like, oh, let's put a little bit of reverb here, let's do this, or let's change the mistakes. No, it had to be that. And I think what we do live now is really even crazier, because we play the record and every day it's different. Like every day, I mean, they're the songs, but we're doing other versions of it. And it's progressed really like dramatically from what we did on the record to if you see it now live.
Why have you always decided, and in a moment we're going to come out to you guys, if you've got any questions for Soulwax, then please get them into your minds now and put your hands up, we'll get a microphone to you. And also, if you're listening at home, 85058, what is it about Ghent that has made you stay? And don't say it's your home, because I understand that that's where you want to be. But I mean, is there something beyond that, why you stay in Belgium rather than moving to New York or Los Angeles?
Our parents are there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? Oh.
That's kind of it, because we have a real love-hate relationship with it, because it's obviously it's a magnificently beautiful town. It's this amazing blend of having a kind of medieval museum-like qualities and being a real city where people live, and student community and everything. But at the same time, it's also just boring. It is.
That's not going to go down really well.
It's a small town and it's boring.
They've
So,
just did a very bold statement.
You're not going to get the You're not going to get the freedom of Ghent
No,
now, are
Dave.
you? From the mayor.
Is this therapy
it
for
is.
Dave?
Sorry, I'm honest. Yeah.
Stefan, would you like to provide balance to that very quickly?
I'm gonna put balance in there because I think musically, Ghent, I'm really honest, because it's in the middle of Belgium. It's like a half hour away from France, half hour away from Holland, half hour away from Germany. Actually, an hour away from London if you put a compass in the middle. And it's always been this weird attraction for a lot of musical influences, electronically.
Marvin Gaye
Marvin Gaye was in Belgium as well. But there's also a lot of new beat, a lot of the house music. There's an R&S label that got Aphex Twin to release his stuff. All of that comes out of Ghent. And it's always been this weird little town, I think. So as much as Dave thinks it's boring, it does provide for some better stuff.
Well, you come and live there for 4 years.
We'll swap.
Yeah?
Lots of people getting in touch with us on text on 85058. Matt in Lancaster says, I saw Soulwax in Manchester last night. They were superb. Best live gig this year. What a show. Just brilliant. Steve in Brighton says, I saw Soulwax at the Roundhouse on Friday in London. Absolutely brilliant. A fantastic mix of retro synths and rock drums. And I loved the way they integrated the support acts too, making the whole night a very enjoyable, integrated experience. Please thank the band for me.
Great
How
review.
important is that to you then to get the other acts involved to make it a one-off seamless event?
I think it's really. I think being DJs, it ended up playing. When we play a Soulwax, somebody would always go, "Hey, could you guys DJ afterwards? Or could you do this?" And so this idea of having other people that we like or we admire to come with us and to make a whole evening out of it is something really important for us. Yeah.
Okay, let's go out to the audience now. And hands up if
I
anyone
will
has a
make a
question.
move over
There's
there.
a gentleman at the front there, Paul.
Do you want me
Paul,
to make
right at
the effort?
front,
Oh,
with the beard.
The biggest fan of all time. Paul, how... you look like it. How long have you been a Soulwax fan, first of all?
Since the second album. Well, the first album came out only in Belgium. Second album came out worldwide.
When was that, in 1964? is it?
What month was it?
Thanks, Nihal.
2:14 in the afternoon.
I saw them at the Borderline the first time they ever played the UK, and then you did the Falcon the following night, and I was in A&R at the time, so I got to go and watch all of these weird and wonderful things. And I remember the gig at the Falcon was just inspirationally good. Mic stands made out of neon sticks, white suits, Casio guitars, the full bifter, and it was absolutely. And for those two albums, the second and third albums, and that's kind of what I wanted to ask about, guys. Every time you've made an album, because I interviewed you just before the Any Minute Now album for the Fly magazine, and it was such a large progression since the second, and then obviously Night Version's a progression. But with you moving forward all the time, do you ever feel the need to not look back at all, because your back catalogue is pretty impressive?
Yeah. People...
We never do it, but people ask us about it a lot. I think there's many Soulwax fans that know Soulwax as an indie rock band, and they're kind of like, oh wait, where the guitars gone? And for a lot of people, they're different Soulwaxes. So a lot of people who know us from Night Versions or our remixes or as Too Many DJs. So they're very different fan bases sometimes. But I think in our heads, it's all the same, which is probably why this is a therapy session. But I think for us, there's no difference in between those things. I think for me, a good song, a good rock song, or like a good electronic song, or just a techno track that I like, they're pretty much the same world for us. So maybe it is what's against us and what's for us, maybe.
Is that, do you think, what Belgica was about as well? Was that kind of a joining up of the old Soulwax, and then there's this huge gap, and then new Soulwax? Was that the kind of bit that was planted in the middle to kind of...
We completely forgot we did Belgica, yeah. So thank you, yeah. That's what we did.
I stalk, apparently, so I've got to know these things. Hey, Nihal.
Cool.
But yes, to answer your question, when we start looking back, it doesn't work for us. So we have to keep moving forward, or we lose interest and we move on to something else. And it's we get that it's a shame for for people, but that's kind of how we have to move on.
That's not belittling the new stuff in any way, shape, or form. The
No,
new
no.
album is absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
You know, it
Thank
really
you.
is. It's just that there were so many monumental ideas in the previous stuff. It seems a shame to turn you back.
Thank you.
Go easy now. Hold yourself back there.
Right. Well, amazing.
Thank you
Amazing.
very
Wow.
much.
Okay,
Ray.
we'll get some more questions, don't worry, for you, and an entire kind of history as well. We can get that as well.
Okay.
Very, very
Thank you.
impressive.
Get him in the
Very
team.
impressive indeed. Okay.